The magical journey of the 5 koshas begins with the coming together of the 5 elements to form the human body. Koshas are concentric sheaths. Deep within the innermost sheath lies the soul, yearning to unite with the divine. The formation of the human body is in the consciousness, even before we take birth. Much like the formation of the pot is in the mind of the potter before the mound of clay is even put on the wheel. According to yogic philosophy, Annamaya Kosha, or the physical body, forms the first sheath. Life got established in Sundar Raja's body and mind, but because of his mother's illness, the 5 elements that make up the causal body were already in imbalance, leading to sickness and instability. Sundara Raja was born on the night of December 14th, 1918. The country was in the grip of an influenza epidemic. His mother, Sheshamma, had had an attack too, and both mother and child were not expected to survive. His father, Bellur Krishnamachara, was the headmaster of the only primary school in nearby Narsapur. Miraculously, both mother and child survived. He was the 11th among 13 children, and with a big head and a dark, frail body, the butt of his siblings' teasing. When Sundara Raja was 5, his father retired and the family moved to Bangalore. Three years later, Sundara Raja's father died. His parting words to him were, "I have struggled very hard in my youth. You will also have to struggle very hard, but eventually you will lead a happy life." At the age of 13, Sundara Raja was stricken by malaria, followed by typhoid. He was in the hospital for a month, but even a year after that, his health did not show any progress. He was so sickly and weak that he passed his lower secondary school exam with great difficulty. At 16, he was only 4 feet 10 inches tall, weighed just 70 pounds, and his chest was a measly 22 inches. The doctor suspected he had tuberculosis and there was no available cure. The doctor predicted that he would live for only 2 or 3 years. So his parents and siblings neglected his health, believing he would not live long, and Sundar Raja was sure he would die sooner than that. The situation was hopeless. The family was so poor that his brothers could not afford to pay his monthly fee of 3 rupees. With a timely letter of recommendation, he was declared a half-fee student and could continue his studies. Summer of 1934 saw Sundar Raja travelling to Mysore to be with his sister while his brother-in-law Sri Krishnamacharya was away. He was excited about seeing the Maharaja's palace, little knowing that the journey was the beginning of a momentous voyage. On his return, Sri Krishnamacharya told him to stay on and learn some asanas to improve his health. The word health charged him with enthusiasm, and he stayed on and joined the Maharaja High School. But life was far from fun. Though he enjoyed his school, he grew to be scared of his hot-tempered brother-in-law. He was not allowed to bring any friends over, and through his 2 years in Mysore, he could not make any friends. Krishnamacharya became indifferent towards him and ordered him to practice asanas without teaching him or allowing him to go to the yogshala where he himself taught. Whenever Sundar Raja asked Sri Krishnamacharya to teach him, he would say, learning asanas depends on one's karma in the previous birth. It was like playing blind man's bluff. And for several months, young Sundar Raja tried to twist and turn and bend his stiff body, scared to make even a single mistake for the fear of being caught by his guru. In this lonely and fearful existence, his only companion was Keshav Murthy, with whom he shared a room. Keshav Murthy was Sri Krishnamacharya's star pupil. Sri Krishnamacharya would wake up the lads at 4 in the morning. Whether it was the hard life, the tough regimen or something else, but one morning Keshav Murthy just disappeared, never to return. At that time, Keshav Murthy's disappearance made Sundar Raja's life even harder. His share of work also fell on Sundar Raja, and the poor boy was overworked, exhausted, and perpetually hungry. But such was the discipline in Sri Krishnamacharya's house that he could not even ask his sister for food. Everyone was to eat when called and only eat what was served. Worse, he met with an accident on a borrowed cycle when he went to Bangalore for his father's death anniversary. He needed 4 rupees and 8 annas to get the bicycle repaired. One of his sisters gave him 1 rupee, but he had to get the rest on his own. Utterly desperate, he was driven to petty stealing. Even then, it took him 3 years to pay back the balance. Struggling with poverty and ill health, the turning point in his life came in June 1935 when he returned to Mysore and Krishnamacharya indoctrinated him in the Yogshala in Keshav Murthy's place. Taking the place of the star pupil, in spite of his physical rigidity and his inability to perform the asanas, was a leap of faith, which the fearful Sundar Raja took with nervous trepidation. He never looked back. As Sundar Raja was to prove later, his karma in previous lives had certainly been good. Within a month of his learning a few asanas, he was awarded the princely sum of 50 rupees by the Maharaja of Mysore after his first public performance in the Mysore town hall in December 1935. There was no thought of a goal at that time. He took to yoga because of circumstances, not because of an inherent zeal or inspiration. His legs would pain terribly, and the backache was unbearable. Fearful of expressing his difficulties to anyone, for years he practiced the asanas mechanically. When his guru commanded him to perform the Hanuman asana, he did it even though he did not have the ability to do so and severely injured himself. His daily routine those days started with getting up at 4 a.m. and watering the garden and ended at 8 p.m. when he returned home after a tiring day of teaching and studying. Exhausted and aching with hunger, he was perpetually drowsy. Consequently, he became a backbencher, and for want of 3 more marks, he failed in English in the secondary school leaving certificate exam. This meant taking the exam again, and this was clearly beyond the means of someone who was unable to have even 2 balanced meals a day. Thus ended his formal education. Destiny was being very unkind to him at such a tender age. But it is only in the dark depths that the promise of a precious jewel lies hidden. Unlike in school, in the Yogshala young Sundar Raja showed promise. In 1935, having cleared the elementary, intermediate and advanced diploma course in yoga, he stood first with 98% marks. The year 1936 was a landmark in Sundararaja's life. On a trip to North Karnataka with his guru, the staff at the Karnataka College took a keen interest in learning yogasanas. The ladies and girls demanded a separate class, and Sundararaja was instructed to teach them since he was the youngest in the group. It was a great responsibility, and Sundararaja did not think he was up to it, yet he took up the challenge. This was the beginning of his independent teaching career. The prana or life energy courses through the body, gaining momentum which leads to growth and more accentuated form. Pranamaya Kosh, the second sheath, is the organic body. Moving within from the Annamaya Kosh, this was the period of Sundararaja's life when he got married, had children and took to yoga seriously.
It was not my ambition that I should become a teacher or something like that. Circumstances forced me to teach, and I took it with open heart, as I was not knowing any other subject in the world to make a living. Soon after, my guru asked me to go to Pune to train students in the Dekankana for 6 months on a princely salary of ₹60. My scanty knowledge of English is what tilted the balance in my favor as one to be assigned job. When I came here in 1937, the challenge began. I was a free man, free from the clutches of my guru. I thought yoga was only about flexibility. And now that I have achieved the flexibility, what more will yoga show me? But I continued to be restless. So I probed deeper to find the cause of this restlessness. To gain confidence in teaching, I practiced relentlessly. The pain in my body increased instead of decreasing, but I was not scared of even death. I was practicing 10 hours a day as I was conducting classes and used to sleep in back arches because the pain would not let me sleep otherwise. People called me a madcap, but I was determined to either survive all or die practicing. Students used to ask me that you are teaching only asanas, but not pranayama. Why don't you teach pranayama? But unfortunately, I had not known anything about pranayama. So I asked my guru to teach me. And he just laughed and said that you have learned asanas, no doubt. But for pranayama requires tremendous endurance in the lungs. You are a TB patient, so it's very difficult for you to learn pranayama. But I was desperate that I can earn something and send money to my mother, as well as my brother who has to be educated for their higher standard. And I had to make my living. So all these things were counted. Then I asked my guru, at least to tell me something. So he said, take a deep inhalation, just hold, exhale. Fortunately, as I was visiting in the month of May, I stayed with him for a week in Mysore. And I knew that he used to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning to do pranayama. And I used to peek from the window and see how he sits, how he starts, and how he practices. So by observing 2 or 3 days, then I said, I will also imitate him. At that time my age was only 20. People who had practiced for 30 years, 40 years, they came in the way, they said yoga cannot be done in public, they cannot be done in mass, so it's all wrong. Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru also said to me, he's a young boy, what does he know about yoga?
The pupils also became less and less, and the Gymkhana felt that it wasn't worth their while to continue the services. And after 3 years, his services were dispensed with.
So I started private classes because I had about 200 students at that time.
So I thought even 20 students come, I can leave. But somehow or other, there was no chance. And I thought that whatever happens, I settle in Pune.
In the mornings, I used to teach in the cantonment and then beyond Erwada. In the evening, I used to go to the Gymkhana, Vithalwadi, and then National Defence Academy. People wanted me to go from place to place. Without cycling, it was impossible to reach them. So I had to buy a bicycle, Hercules bicycle for 30 rupees. I developed lots of problems by cycling 30-40 miles. Varicose veins, pain in my testicles and hernia. I would stop on the way and do Urdhva to relieve the pain and then start bicycling. I was uneducated, uncivilized from the Orthodox Brahmin family. I was ignorant of everything. Students who came from my class made fun of me and pulled my shandy. I was submissive in the early days. Everyone treated me like dust. Their attitude made me more bold to accept the challenge of teaching.
I won the students, but somehow or other jealousy set in. And believe me or not, that within 6 months of my practice, they thought that I would become famous in Pune. So the gymnasts thought that best thing is to burn all the belongings to the institute and thought that now the class will not run. When I lost my job, I had to pay rent. And I was not getting funds. So what I used to do, some rich people were there, who were my students. So I used to borrow from one saying, give me 20 rupees, I will return next month. So I will pay by installments. So they were willingly agreed. In order to maintain confidence in them, that I am not cheating them, so I used to borrow from others and repay 3 rupees, 4 rupees, saying next time I will pay another 2, 3. Like that I went on rotating.
After 3 years in Pune, I had only 8 rupees and no job. I found a very small room which I could share with other bachelors. The rent was divided between 6 or 7 of us and my share came to 1 rupee 50 paisa. It was really uncomfortable and I could not relax or think clearly. I was cursing God when I couldn't even get a meal for 3 or 4 days, surviving only on tap water.
The process of polishing and sharpening the facets of the rough diamond, which was later going to dazzle the world with its brilliance, was well and truly underway.
Every now and then my mother used to say, get married, get married. I knew that my financial position was not at all good, so I was hesitating. But when my guru insisted that I should marry, that he is teaching a lot of girls in Pune, so probably he is refusing because he must have fallen in love with somebody. So I doubt his character. So every time, the relatives used to come and they used to say there's a girl from this family, from that family. So my mother and my brothers used to say, yes, come and you can bring them. So when I smelt that something is going on, I used to apply oil to my body, to my hair, without taking shave for 2 months, 3 months, so that they could look at me and say, oh, he's just a madcap. No, we don't. He looks so ugly and all this. My mother could not believe. She started crying. Then I said, well, okay, but if you are all insisting me that I should marry. Our marriage took place on July 9, 1943, when my wife Rama was only 16. After our marriage, Rama stayed on with my mother to learn our family customs, and I returned to Pune to find that I had lost all my students. The thought of not just me, but my wife suffering along with me was unbearable. I was actually crying, wondering what I had done with my life. 5 months after I got married, I got a call from a city girls' school to teach yoga for 50 rupees a month. I accepted gladly. I wrote to Rama to come and join me. I was earning now. This was the first letter I wrote after her marriage, as there was no money to even write letters. She came to Pune only with her Mangala Sutra, as she had nothing else to call her own. I had nothing in my possession to make her comfortable. I had to borrow everything from my pupils, including a vessel, stove, kerosene oil. So she used to cook with one vessel, remove it, and then cook dal again in that same vessel.
There was a time that they really